Hello guys, welcome to a new video on Tower of God New World. In this video I'm going to go over the tier list update. First I want to talk about what I changed visually here on the spreadsheet, and you can already see the mandatory, recommended and nice to have like investment levels are now split into two columns, and these columns will be the revolution investment. Low is up to tier 3 and high is up to tier 6. I decided to make this change because some units will really get crazy improvements in skills and also stats that will change their ranking quite radically. So I think it make sense to show you guys which units actually benefit the most from Revolution and on which units will have the best impact, let's say. So this is more or less the reason why I decided to make this visual change. I already updated all the descriptions, all the explanations for the rankings, and I'm not going to go over those in this video. That's also why you see a URI on top of the descriptions, because they are not meant to be read here. Just open my spreadsheet, have a look at them. If some of them do not resonate with you, let me know. We can try to discuss and understand the reason why, and if there is a change to be made, I will do it. And yeah, this is more or less the idea here. The accuracy column has also been updated. Actually, I left the to be updated tag, but no, now it is fine. So I updated the accuracy as well. So the percentages you see here are how confident I am in the ranking, and will also based on the fact on whether I did tests personally or I relied on external information, or I relied on just understanding the kits and like trying to guess the impact, let's say. I didn't do that on many units, to be honest. I only did it on some specific ones that I'm also going to go over during the visual tier list, but just one prime example of this is going to be Edin. This guy just has a terrible kit overall, and the revolution upgrades are stupid, like 60 swiftness and then more evasion per point in swiftness, something like that. And this is quite weird because his kit doesn't have a lot of utility, so even if he stays alive, what am I gaining from it? So to me, probably could have also stayed in D even after the upgrades. I just gave him C because he actually received some somewhat reasonable upgrades, but it's still trash, but it seems a bit better. There are also two that I couldn't really rank, and those are Quaetro, that you still see here with the question mark, and Mulov. For a similar reason as before, but while Edin really didn't get a lot of value out of the revolution, they might get pretty good value. So without actually testing them, it's hard for me to guess where they could end up. Because they had a good starting kit, more or less, and the revolution actually provided a pretty relevant upgrade on paper. But we have to see, like in reality, if this change is going to be impactful or not. So they are still question marks, and I don't know when we will have the possibility to change it. Because some other units I had the possibility to talk about them, and have some people that are knowledgeable and trustworthy run some tests to see how they perform compared to other units and have a reasonable guess of where they could be located. But nobody is willing to invest Green Revolution mats on these two units due to how bad they were. So I'm having kind of a hard time finding people actually willing to invest. I have like Quiet 3 blue and Mew Love probably a 3 green, so I cannot even invest in them even if I wanted to. Not that I want, but okay, you get the idea. So those two are still question marks, and some others I had to rely on other people tests and opinions. But I would say overall I'm quite satisfied with the rankings, and to me they make a lot of sense. And we're going to go over those right now. We're going to move to the visual tier list. This one is also split up in Revolution 3 and Revolution 6, obviously. And we're going to have a look at what changed from the previous version. I will mention that I added some icons that you can see here, some red arrows down and some green arrows up. And those are here to indicate which unit is like overperforming or underperforming in their current tiers. And there could be some changes in the future. Potentially, if there are additional changes to the meta, there are new ignition weapon sets, there are new units that have additional synergies, things could change. So far, this is just to indicate the units that are not performing that well in the current tier. That's about it. So now we can get started with the up to Revolution 3 category, and we can start with the yellow. The first unit that had the change is Compressed Rock. It went from S to S+. The reason being, this guy can keep dealing damage even at reasonable deficits. So is pretty important, and it can burst down some tanky units. So for that reason alone, it can stay in the S+ category. Now for the S ranking, we have a new addition, which is Hiwa. She went down from S+ to S, mainly because for the opposite reason as Compressed Rock. As the deficit gets higher and higher, her damage is getting more and more irrelevant. So that's a bit of a problem, but I think most AoE damage dealers, unless they are SSR plus units, have the same issues, because she doesn't get access to really good substats. Her ability upgrades, but this is not counting here, but we will see the same for Revolution 6. Her ability upgrades are kind of weak, so it was also disappointing on that side. But I would say Hiwa is still super relevant, and up to 140, 150 level deficit, she should still work as your main DPS. It's just that higher than that, she will need a sub DPS to support her, to kill those tanky units. And that's basically it, I would say. Now, other changes is that Rock went up from B to B+. No real big reason, I would say. It's just that the way that the resistances work now, and the fact that you can overcap them, kind of makes him more valuable with his 80% AoE physical and magic resistance increase, though the duration is not that high. And with his own passive, it could be somewhat usable, but nothing really too important. I think this rank increase could have been avoided. I could have just left him in B for the up to Revolution 3. Now, another unit that changed is Gosang. She went down from A to B+, just because her passive is too short, like in duration, and it doesn't really justify investing in her. I don't think she's really that important. You can just plug and play her if you don't have a better option at the beginning, but other than that, really not that great of a pick. Now we have Gray that went down from B to C, just because she only has a crowd control on the passive. Okay, cool. And then she has a magic resistance shred if you were to invest in her exclusive equipment and if you wanted to keep her alive. I don't think that justifies anything, so to me she went down to C. And in general, these R and SR units could even entirely be removed. Let me know what you think, but I think I can easily get rid of all of them and there will be no issues. Let me know in the comments down below. And the last unit I changed here is Hats from C to D, because this guy really does nothing, so it makes no sense. Then if you go over the next element, which is purple, you will see a lot of change, especially this S+ category is now a lot emptier than before, because Joaquin, Vivi, and Machini have all been moved down. The reason being is that their damage potential, this amount of investment is not as high as before. Vivi still performing better than the other two, to be honest, at this up to Revolution 3 investment level. They are still super good, but at high deficits, they are kind of struggling. And you don't really see any other SSR DPS unit except for Compressed Rock, which has higher burst than them. Like you don't really see anyone else here. Machini is just in S because without Revolution 6 and those kind of upgrades, she's just fine, but really not that crazy. So yeah, that's pretty much the reason for those 3 downgrades. Now I also have another downgrade from A to B+ for Endorsi. mainly because her utility as just a bait is not enough to justify an A rank anymore. She's just jumping in the enemy team, grouping them up, and dying. I don't know, really not that worth it. You could invest in her so that she could also provide some defense shred, some knockdowns, etc. But is it worth it? I don't think so. So to me, she stays in like a B plus now, more or less. Then I have Rachel. She went down from B plus to B, mainly because she really doesn't have much play in general. Her kit is kind of average. Her damage doesn't really match up with the other options. And also at high deficit, she really cannot do anything. So kind of weird. The next rank change is Tin, which again I could remove as all the other SR and R units. He went from B to C because again, the higher the deficit, the less likely he is to kill with the passive, so he's kind of worthless, more or less. And that was pretty much it for what changed in purple, I would say. For red, we had very few changes. The biggest one is that Evankel went from S plus to S because without like investment in Revolution, she's just okay. Her damage is nice in certain compositions, but she's kind of tricky to use. So I would say S makes total sense for her. Viol is a lot more plug and play and it can stay in the S plus. But Evankel, I don't know, a bit too tricky to use at this amount of investment. Then for blue, well, no, not for blue. We still have one more unit that I moved, but is kind of an irrelevant one. It's Apple. She went from B plus to C, mainly because with all the additional accuracy we get, we don't really need an evasion decrease. She's not even used in bosses anymore. It's really whatever, fine. She's in C. I don't see her being any higher right now. Now for blue, you will also see that I moved some units from S plus down, and that unit is Data Machine. The reason being, she's just a stall tank, okay? Super reliable, she can survive easily more than 10 seconds, but so what? Like units like Kurdan can do the same, well, probably even better. Novik as well with the right ignition weapon sets. So just surviving is not enough. She has a magic resistance shred which is okay, but now the main DPS in blue is a physical damage dealer. So also this part is not as important. To be honest, she could be in A-ish, something like that, at Revolution 3, remember. I'm always talking about this amount of investment, okay? But I will leave her at S because she's really versatile and useful in general. So it's fine, it's fine. Then I moved 3 units from S to A+, and those units are Meliodas, Urek, and Elizabeth. The reason being, these 3 units do not really shine that much, and actually they have been out-damaged quite heavily by Kaiser. Urek specifically has the Ryan attack that you could use for him, so you can give him a Rayana and rely on the passive to wipe out the enemy team. But the more investment you have, the less reliable that is. And also, I don't think it's really the best way to play. Well, it's probably the best way to play him, but I don't think it makes a lot of sense. And what do you do when enemies have invincibility in their kit? You just do nothing. It will die for very little gains. It's still okay, but I don't know. Really doesn't really resonate that well with me. These other 2 units still super broken DPS units, but if we have to take Revolution into account, they are really not going to be able to compete with other units. Still super valid. You can use them if you have them max. They will deal a ton of damage, no problem. It's just in the very high deficits, they are going to feel a bit lacking. That's why I just decided to move them from S to A+. Still top of A+, as you can see from the arrow going up, but still I think they don't quite deserve S. Let's put it that way. Then we have a change. I moved Leroro from A to A+, because this guy has a pretty solid kit, defense decrease, swiftness decrease, and the buff for blue element. Overall, really solid and can help Kaiser quite a bit. And we don't really have a lot of supports here. We only have Blanc and him. So that's also contributing to his higher ranking, I would say. And then the rest is staying the same, but we have a major change. We have Kunran from A plus to B, just because this guy, after Kaiser came out, just was a bit too lacking in damage. He really cannot deal a ton of it. But the biggest issue is how they decided to treat him with the like tier 4 and tier 5. They're like those are not in scope here, but I had to lower it because if I had this guy at like A rank now and then in Revolution 6 it went down to B, most people would be confused by that, okay? So I decided to lower this rank as well to match kind of the lowest ranking of the two, because I didn't want to have people think that by investing in the unit they would become weaker. It does not become weaker, it's just weaker compared to how better the other units got. So it got the same with Revolution or without, but all the other units got massive improvements. So this guy to me just lost ranks. If that makes sense. Let me know if this kind of logic is like weird for you, but in my mind it makes sense. So I will keep it like that. And the rest is pretty much the same. For green, we also have some changes. So I previously ranked the like Tank and Dorsey in S in the past week. I didn't make a video on it. So you like if you didn't open my spreadsheet, you wouldn't know. But yeah, she was in S before. I decided to up her up in S plus because she's really, really strong. I've been using her like crazy, and she definitely deserved this ranking. No questions. Really awesome unit. And for the new Hiwa, she's straight good. So she's just starting in S plus directly, even at no real investment. Really, really good unit. Then we have a couple of the modes. We have regular Yuri that went from S plus to S, but still the very top of S. And we have Zahard that went from S plus to S, but the very bottom of it. Now the reason why Zahard is at the bottom of S, in my opinion, is that it doesn't really have that much damage in the kit. It's just used to kill enemies with shields and then stall tank a bit. Not really that important. The damage compared to the other units we have here, which are Ren and Child Yuri, is totally negligible. You will see big numbers at times, guys, but those are like shield one-shots, meaning he destroyed shields and that damage has been reported in the actual value, but it's not really damage. And yeah, against the shielded units again is great. Anyone else, entirely useless. If you're running evasion builds, it might be a bit better, but still the damage won't be enough. So to me, Zahard, borderline, like almost A plus to be honest. But I'm leaving him as because he's still really a great unit to use in general. Then we have some other changes. Yaonhi went from A plus to A, just because again, after the changes to Revolution, she didn't get any great improvements, and I had to take into account her final state as well in the initial ranking. So she's a bit lower than before. She's still a super valid pick, but nothing insane. Then we have Shiliel. She also went from like A to B plus, mainly because at high deficit she already starts stopping, like she doesn't kill Urek anymore. And the fact that with up to Revolution 3 she needs also a setup for her to cast a special move with Rihanna, it's tricky, not really good, and I didn't really like it. So she went down a tier for me. Same thing with Misang, in the sense that she cannot kill Urek anymore reliably at high deficit. So she kind of lost her like sense of purpose or existence, whatever. So she went down from A to B plus as well. Now there is a big change here, I would say. This unit here, last week I ranked D, but today after using her a bit, I kind of decided to rank her up to B, because like her main issue at the beginning was survivability. Now with Sela and resistances, she doesn't have that problem. So all she brings to the table is a 60% green element resistance. That is the same thing that also Rachel and Yeonhee bring to the table. But she brings that, and then she also decreases the enemy crit damage and just in general some crowd controls here and there. So overall, the kit is not that bad. So she didn't deserve the same ranking as Edin or Yuri. So I decided to up her up and take her to B, which to me makes total sense. So yeah, that's pretty much the reason behind this as well. And then let me check. We have, well, obviously one more change. We have from C to D for Yuri, because really she's entirely useless. So made no sense to keep her in C, even though C is crap, but D is even worse. So yeah. That's pretty much it, I would say, for the pre-Revolution, for the up to Revolution 3 category. Now for the up to Revolution 6, we have a lot more changes. So this is what changes from the up to Revolution 3 to this one. What changes with T4, 5, and 6 investment in the units. For yellow, we can see that in the S plus category, there are no changes. In the S category, we have the addition of Shibisu. Because it gets resistances from the Revolution, it just gets a lot more durable and can survive some annoying like magic or physical resistances, decreases, or some pierce effects. It can survive a bit better, and his utility in the kit is already super solid. So that to me bumped him higher to S. Could have been S already to begin with, probably yes, but definitely a really nice T4 ability upgrade. Then we have in A plus a pretty new unit, I would say. We have Cheonwa going from D rank to A plus. Now I put it at the bottom of it because certain Rihanna users with his same deficits are kind of struggling. Not the same deficit, the same multiplier are kind of struggling at high deficits to kill the enemy. So I don't think he can reliably do that. I haven't tested it myself. So A plus seems reasonable, but might be lower. That's why I put the arrow down. But we'll see. We're just trying him out a little bit. Now, 3 more changes. These 3 units were in B rank. They went up to A. And Data Urek is like at the high A range because he has attack subnode in the Revolution, and that is 120% attack increase, which for him is quite huge because his multipliers are good. It was just lacking base attack. So this makes him okay-ish, but that's too much investment for that unit. PvP is really good, but Adventure, you have way better options. You don't need him, not even close. So yeah. And the other 2, I had people testing them, and Gietang has super insane Revolution upgrades, but his base damage was so low that it didn't really have a huge impact, unfortunately. So he ends up like being a viable carry of sorts, but the damage is nothing special. So it still falls a bit short, I would say. Same thing with Wang Nanja. He also got really insane attack buffs and some good stuff. And also the fact that now we get a lot of accuracy super easily. He can guarantee landing the hits of his special move, which in turns give swiftness to the whole team, which is not bad. Well, to the whole yellow team. But yeah, it's not bad. So definitely the jump from B to A is justified. Could be a bit higher, maybe, but for now it's just this. And the rest of the rankings are the same for yellow. Now for purple, we have one first addition to the S plus ranking, and that is obviously Mashini. She is an absolute monster with T4 ability upgrade and all the sub nodes that the the ranged units get access to. So absolutely OP, no questions asked. For the S rank, S rank, there is really not much change except for the addition of Kunagero and Nare. They've been both being moved to S because this guy got a pretty good revolution upgrade. So he got the 90% physical and magic resistance decrease on enemies that were released from his, I don't even know the name of that bag, but whatever, skill. So that's a pretty nice increase. And he also got a buff on the passive elemental attack buff. So all purple element units will get a huge attack increase just for him being in the team. So that's also pretty massive. Nare got crazy good attack buff from Revolution and also additional physical and magic resistance decrease, which is pretty dope. So she definitely deserves this jump from A to S. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Ghost got up from A to A plus because his tier 5 kind of works really well with his kit. It was really well thought out in my opinion. So you can definitely use this guy and it will tank really a lot. So to me, he definitely deserves a plus for the huge magic resistance shred that he has and just in general his potential survivability. So really, really good. And yeah, the next one is Endorsi from B plus to A. This is mainly due to the 100% defense decrease on the first enemy hit, or well, not necessarily, but the first for sure, and also all the consecutive uses of that same active skill will apply in 8 seconds, if I'm not mistaken. 8 seconds, 100% defense decrease, which is pretty nice. Nothing too insane, but I think it kind of deserves the A rank for that alone. Then we got a pretty big jump from D to B plus for Prince. Again, this is one of the units I haven't really tested out, but just by looking at the uptime on the special move and by looking at the effect that is a plus 80% in both resistances, looking at the area and the uptime, you cannot really reliably use it on this purple team because ranged units won't have the effect. They will be like Prince will be in the middle of the enemy team, your ranged units will be in the back, they won't get the additional resistances. Not that they really needed them anyway. Joaquin will just jump and move randomly and it will never stay inside the area that is super small. Vargarv will also likely not be in the area or a potential Karaka, whatever. So it's really weird set. It is probably going to be the only one in it, which is fine, but that doesn't justify much. He has magic resistance decreases, but so does Ghost. So to me, really not that important of a pick, I would say. Then we have two additions to the B rank. We have Verdi that gets an ignore defense on inked enemies, and not only for her, but seems for everyone, because it says attacks on inked enemies ignore 50% defense, which is a pretty major buff to the team, I would say. Could be viable, maybe also on bosses, who knows. But I would say sounds quite okay. Nothing major, but it's okay. Lurker also got quite a good buff. He got a 90% magic resistance decrease, which sounds huge, but I mean, Ghost has 100%, so what are we even talking about here? And this guy also just got additional damage on what, like the special move or something based on the wound stacks, etc. But is that really going to be super impactful in adventure? No. Maybe on bosses? Could be. No idea. So to me, it's still kind of in the B ranking, but nothing more than that. And that was it also for purple, I would say. Then we have Evankel. Immediately an addition and also at the top of the S plus ranking is Evankel. She gets crazy value, not necessarily from the Revolution upgrades, which the T5 is not too bad, but she just gets insane subnodes. The 60% special move pierce, the 90% crit damage, the 90% crit rate, the 120% attack increase, the 20 swiftness, but she already had it also in the previous tier. But yeah, like crazy value from the subnodes. And this alone is enough to take her from S tier to top of the S plus tier. Super great unit. Now, what changed here also compared to the previous tier is Viol. I now put him in at the bottom of the S plus tier. It didn't get worse, obviously, with the Revolution. It's just that everyone else got a lot more benefits than him, because ranged units got like basic attack pierce. It doesn't really care that much. Okay, obviously it will help him, but it does not rely on basic attacks that much to make it justifiable or to be a relevant increase. So kind of weird. Then they get crit damage, okay, attack, okay, they're good. But then what? The cooldown reduction is nice on him, 30%. It will be more bangs. But even then, I mean, they could have done more for him, in my opinion. So it kind of feels a bit lacking when compared to the rest of the units in the S plus category. That's why he has a arrow down now. Then the next change is going to be Xiaxia and Acraptor. They're both in S. So Acraptor came from what, A rank? Yeah, A rank, I believe. And the reason why I put him in S and at the top of the S ranking is that this guy has an insane increase in attack from the T5, which is huge. Like potentially like 1000% attack increase, 1200% attack increase, really crazy high numbers. And I had a really trustworthy person to test him out, and his basic attack damage was so insane. Like the damage he dealt was higher than Viol. The thing is, survivability was a bit of a problem. Nothing you can really like not work around with certain with positioning. You can for sure make him survive long enough. But yeah, I would say survivability was his biggest issue, but damage wise, super top notch. That's why he's at the top of S. Could even deserve S plus, to be honest. But I haven't tested him like personally, so I first want to see it like with my own eyes, and I will probably invest in this guy really soon. So yeah, I will try to figure out how it works compared to Viol. And we also got arrow up for Warion. The main reason being that she has doubled the physical pierce on the passive for all the teammates, which is pretty massive if you ask me. So yeah, overall really good upgrade. And for Xexia, she just got an increased elemental attack buff, which is pretty nice on the passive, and also energy regen, which never hurts. So definitely deserves the S tier now. Now, what else changed? I would say this guy remained the same. He got a good buff to make him stay viable and not receive the arrow down like a potential Chaonwa or whatever. We have an increase for Yellowy from B plus to A. This is a huge increase, and also the top of A. This is a huge increase because these turns are passive from being a 15-second buff to a permanent buff for the whole battle, and also adding a 50% crit damage on top of it. She already gives like 40 attack speed and 40% crit rate, which ranged units are lacking crit rate, really important. Both Acraptor and Viol would benefit from a Revo 5 Yellowy. So really interesting, I would say. In general, really good buff for Yellowy. Could deserve more. For now, it's just A, but top of A, I would say. Then we have Romei. She went up from B to B+. Her attack buff on the Revolution is nice, but a bit too random to my taste. So she didn't get a massive increase. She just got enough to go to B+. We also got Hansung Yu that got up to B+. This guy got from 40% magic shred to 80% magic shred, which could be pretty beneficial, pretty important. So yeah, that's why it's just getting a B+ for that. Could be even more, but for now I first would like to test him out when I will have the resources, so it will take a bit. This is one of those I just guessed based on other comparisons, I would say. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the B+, nobody in B. And we have Anak from D to C. She only gains a 1000 energy reduction on a skill that needs to hit the crowd control for it to apply the energy reduction. So with all the units that have the status effect immunity, doesn't really seem like much, to be honest. So to me, that's just C at most, and that's about it. Now for blue, we have quite some additions. We have Blanc that made it from S to S plus, and Datamashini that made it from S to the top of S plus. She would have made it from whatever rank I gave to the starting form for only the like stall tanking to the actual one-shot beast and ult spamming machine that she becomes when fully invested in Revolution. Absolutely strong, super like impactful, really awesome unit. Now I think I forgot to mention before for Weekend Rock and Escanor why I gave them the arrow down, because I think they also had it before. Yes, and that's because they like more or less the same reason why I demoted Datamashini from S plus to S, and that is they mainly just tank, especially Weekend Rock. Escanor has the AoE like resistance increase that with Sela kind of lost a bit of value, though overcapping resistance is still valid, so is still to me a very S plus unit, but not as mandatory as it once was. So if you just want to not run him but go with a Novik, totally a reasonable option for me. Really, you don't lose much by not having Escanor now. That's why I wanted to highlight this fact with an arrow down. And with Awakened Rock, he has bad synergies with Jin Sung-ha on top of what I just said of tanking not really being too important right now. And due to the fact that Red Mask Warrior works a lot better with Jin Sung-ha, works a lot better with other units. She has a shit ton of crowd control, and she just doesn't fuck up, again, Jin Sung-ha. Or in general, a lot of units, because removing from the battlefield the highest attack enemy that you normally want to kill with Warrior is kind of weird. Doesn't really synergize well with the red team as a whole. So that's why he's getting an arrow down. And that was pretty much it, I would say, for these arrow downs. So yeah, as I said, Datamashini absolutely a machine, and Kaiser got the arrow up, but she already had it, so no big changes. She got a shit ton better with Revolution, but she was already a monster at base, so no big changes here, but in reality damage output is way higher than before. Then we have Novik and Leroro that went up, Novik from A plus to S and Leroro as well. The reason being the Revolution is really, really huge. This guy got an like attack speed buff for all allies, huge, while the special move is up, but that's okay. Really super good, and also some locking on the basic attacks. Nothing too major there, but still relevant in some instances of the game, like bossing and stuff. Leroro got a massive buff to the elemental attack buff that he has on the passive, like Xiaxia and Kunagero. And in general, his kit was already quite strong. I think I didn't put up arrow for him. Could have deserved it, probably yes. He already has a really solid kit, and he's the only other support. So I think with that change alone of the attack buff, it kind of deserves an higher rank now. So S makes sense to me. Then for A+, really not that many changes. I would say we just got a cooldown from A to A+, because now his passive resistance increase cannot be removed anymore. But more importantly, the silence range that before, or like not the silence range, but the energy drain range that before was like 20% HP of the enemy or less, it get boosted to 70% or less, which is now a lot more reliable. Obviously, you can learn it a lot more and will be a lot more beneficial. So to me, this is a really good upgrade. So other than this, the other change is that I removed the top of the A plus ranking for these two units, because really they didn't get anything from Revolution. They just managed to stay in the same tier, and that's it. No real value. Now they are not even the top of the ranking anymore. And Urek, I think it was also, no, it was not before, but now he is the like one of the worst of the A plus category, just because he's a mediocre Rihanna user with full investment. So I don't know. His damage is really not high, even with all the attack buffs he gets. It doesn't really justify investing in him. Okay, he can survive, he can shield units, he can remove buffs, but no damage is kind of weird. It's okay. It's okay for A plus, but nothing really important. Now for A, we got an increase of hustling from, was that C or no, B? So from B to A, and this guy kind of deserves it. His revolution is really nice. Some attack increase, attack speed increase, basic attack coefficient increase, all good stuff. And he's probably at the top of A at the moment. But again, I haven't tested personally, so I cannot really tell. For this case, might be worth a shot in general to give this guy a better chance to get like A plus on S. But for now, A seemed quite reasonable, because Elizabeth and Meliodas are probably always going to be better than him anyway. So kind of feel right to put him in A. And then we have, again, I already mentioned him, Quant from D to C. It just gets some uptime increase on the passive and some additional, like I think crit rate on enemies inside his smoke area, whatever. Really weird stuff. Nothing important. Now for the last color, we have some major changes. Let me check the previous one. Yeah, Ren and Hiwa both got an arrow up. Hiwa's Revolution 5 is insane, super important to keep your units alive, and Ren, just the mage subnodes that I also mentioned for Evankel, also work on him. Super crazy value. Mine is really dealing a shit ton of damage, still at 220 something deficit. Insane. It can push higher, I'm sure, 250, 300 even. It will still deal damage. So super great unit from my point of view. Now we got also the addition of regular Leroro. It went up from S tier to S plus. And I would say that's completely normal, because this guy gets an increase, like double the amount of magic pierce that he provides from the passive, which was already a 40% after a certain amount of time. It goes up to 80% pierce for the whole team. This is really high numbers, and the rest of the kit is also good, protecting from projectiles and healing, and also the basic attack coefficient increase. All really good stuff, definitely deserves the S plus rank. Then we have regular Yuri. She went from like S rank to S plus and the very top of it, because with a lot of investment in the subnodes, she's just a killing machine. She will keep on spamming the special move, being invincible and melting the enemies. So overall, really super deserving of the S plus ranking and the top of it as well. Then we have Zahard. He just got an arrow down, or yeah, he already had it. His revolution is fine, the tier 4. The tier 5 is kind of meh, but I don't know. Again, I don't really think it's that important. It doesn't have a lot of damage. It's just okay for shields, and for that I wouldn't really give him a too high of a rank, especially when we consider what we have in this element. Then we have some other changes here. Lore went up from A to A+, just because he got additional magic pierce, and he also got some resistances, which could open up for some builds that don't necessarily have him use the Rihanna set. Maybe could use a Sela or something and try to stay in the fight for longer. But we need to test him out. For now, it just seemed a pretty good increase for just the Magic Pierce alone, but could open up for additional possibilities, I would say. Then we have Shidiel from B plus to A plus, but the bottom of it, just because on her own she's not really that important. With the right support units, like for example an Hiwa, she can survive for long and deal some consistent amount of damage, but again, nothing really too important. She can be a Ryana user on her own here. She doesn't require any kind of energy regen, but still nothing really too outstanding. And at high deficits, the damage is not enough at times to kill an Urek with the first special move. So weird. And then the rest is pretty much the same. No changes. We just have an add-in going from D to C for the reasons that I mentioned before. And that's about it. Here in the question mark, I left again, as I said, Quaitro and Mulov. They were both starting in C, and here I wrote potentially B or A, around that range. So yeah, that's kind of the idea, guys. Let me know what you think of this tier list update, if it makes sense to you, if you would change anything. Let me know. I'm open for discussion. I'm sorry again if it was long, but again, tier list videos are always fucking long. I could have cut it short, avoid a lot of a lot of explanations, but even just by going over what I changed took me like 40 minutes, because the first 5 or so were just introduction. So yeah, quite long. Probably next time I can just briefly mention all the changes, and that's about it, guys. Again, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please drop a like, subscribe to my channel, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.